Hello, everyone. I'm Dick Weis. Uh, Welcome to Stone Valley Arts. And what we're doing here today is that I'm in the process of installing an exhibition that is really a small retrospective spanning nearly 60 years. So what we're going to do is kind of take you through a walk in this upstairs gallery and give you an idea of what's here. There are a few things that still need to be put up and refined, but you get a pretty good idea. The pieces that you saw in the entryway are the earliest pieces in the show. Their earliest one was 1965, done while I was a senior in college up in northern Minnesota, and the other one is the first, Emphasis Red is the name of it. It's the first piece that I've ever shown in a professional context, and that was shown at Winnipeg, Manitoba in January. Show up there. So you've got a variety of things to look at. Over in this area here, we'll see some of the earliest paintings that I did related to graduate school, coming into graduate school out of the Army. This was a painting I did while I was in studies, and these two over here, the stand and the figure, and the painting of my wife Nancy were done as a in 1974. There's a variety of things that you'll see as we walk around. I've spread out a whole series of these banner paintings that were part of a South Korean exploration that I did as part of the Fulbright program in 2002-2003. And so you're going to see a mixture of those. This particular one happens to be a new update as part of a new series, but I'll show you later one of the very earliest pieces that I did while I was working in South Korea. I'm very interested in space and on how things work and on the creative process, and this whole exhibition is focused on the creative process. This painting here is probably one of the more intriguing paintings in the show because of the strange shape that comes out on the floor, figure at the cupboard. And I won't talk about a lot of the paintings as much as I might talk about this with some of you, but this started out to be only one painting, and then I thought, what is she looking at through the door? And started exploring that and added another one, and then, oh, well, isn't that an interesting space between the viewer and the painting? So the stool and the trapezoid all came into it as part of the development of that painting. When you walk around the gallery, I've put up a number of little photographs of pieces that were actually too big to go in this space, but are related to some of the things that are happening with the other work that you'll see. And one of my interests for viewers who come to see this show is for them to look at the threads that kind of tie my work together, I hope, over a period of 60 years. And so do a little bit of searching while you're here and see if you can figure out what kinds of things carry through the years. This is actually the earliest painting that I did in the scroll series, the banner series. And this was done in my studio in South Korea. And the basis for these particular group of works was the vertical signs and banners that are all over the landscape in South Korea. And the proportions of them actually were inspired by an old Confucian house. And I've put a photograph up on the wall here of that Confucius House in the district of Daejeon, South Korea. This is the title painting for the show, A Gift of Dreams. And it really is a self-portrait in a way, and deals with sort of my northern Minnesota heritage. And it was a work that I did with the Midwaywan Society, the Ojibwe people, through the Oberholzer Foundation. Ernest Oberholzer was a noted conservationist, and he was one of the founders, actually, one of the people who worked out the agreement that's called the Boundary Waters Quetico Agreement between U.S. and Canada. Over here, a piece that was started as an idea in South Korea, but in the end, I ended up doing it when I got back to the United States, and after visiting the demilitarized zone in South Korea, between North and South Korea, and I was really struck by some of the restrictions of the area, the idea that right over there you can see North Korea, and there were villagers that had to go through checkpoints every day when they went about their business. So I hope you'll come in and look at these, sit down, spend some time with them as you go through it. I tend to explore materials a lot, and different materials really make a difference in terms of the kind of the expressive quality that you get in a painting or construction and assemblage in this particular case. There's a whole, I wish I could have shown more of these here, the Covenant series, but that was just an inspiration coming back from the trip to the East Coast while I was living in the Midwest. And I was really struck by the tensions that I felt on the particular campus that I was working at that particular time, and wonder, how can I explore the idea of tension with that work? And actually stopped the car along Interstate 80 and had my wife drive while I started sketching out ideas. But read the little things that come with this as you go through. Some of the works, like I said, were too big for the exhibition. This is actually one part of a triptych, and put up a photograph of the whole triptych here. Some people are very disturbed by the noose here, but if you pay attention and you know knots, this is not a slip knot. This is a bowline knot, and it's a rescue knot. And the latter refers to rescue rather than to something more dire. And when I do the multi-panel paintings, I'm really interested in the idea that each painting by itself will function as, each panel will function as a painting by itself. And so I felt very comfortable taking this apart and showing just one part of it. And you'll see that in a couple places in the show. This whole wall down here is sort of my social commentary, social history wall, the big pieces that are here. Sometimes you just have to do something in response to an event. And this had to do with a sarin gas attack in the early 2000s in the Japanese subway system. And the center painting, I'm really not sure where all of that came from. I was very struck by, I had a big canvas, I had a ladder leaning against the wall. The sunlight came through and created a beam of light and a shadow. And I started with that, and then the surroundings kind of, I think, led to the final result of it. The title of this particular piece is "Tomorrow the Birds Will Sing," and you can make of that what you will. Over this door, we have a painting that came out of the Iraq War, and somebody pointed out to me the other day when they saw me putting it up that it could be today, because looking at the little NBC logo down here and the live broadcast from Tel Aviv, it could have a contemporary relevance. But I was really thinking about the bunker bombs and all of that were introduced in the Middle East. And I guess you could do this kind of painting in U.S. history just about any time, and it would be relevant. I wish I could have put more of these particular pieces in. This is part of an Song series. And I explain in the write-up here that the Song came from a book by Howard Gardner, and has to do with sort of a fundamental idea in sound. Do people all over the world have a basic vocabulary of sounds that form their languages? Is there a core? And I thought, I wonder if that happens in visual perception as well. And so here, I'm exploring some things and asking some questions. Why does a painting have to be rectangular? What happens if you don't? And so I started doing irregular shapes. And now I was only going to do a series of 10 or so. You get a glimpse and a couple drawings over on this wall. But this is Song, I think, 105. So the series kind of extended itself through time. I've got some little pinups over here, more photographs of some large-scale installations that I've done. And I thought about the possibility of putting them out on the open floor here. But, this is, what is it? 72 inches high, 247 inches wide, and 96 inches deep. It would pretty well fill up this room and limit the activities that can be done here. This work over here with the deer antlers, is part of actually one panel out of the triptych again, and I put up the whole thing here. The whole thing is 100 inches wide. But there again, I think the single panel all by itself works. And I think I feel comfortable showing you that just as it is. You've probably noticed as you've been walking around that there are little quotes that are on the walls every place, and hope those are meaningful to somebody along the way. So that gives you a pretty good idea of the upstairs gallery, and we'll look at the downstairs gallery as well. Well, here we are in the downstairs gallery at Stone Valley Arts. As I mentioned before, the upstairs gallery is mostly the older work, and most of the work down here is from the last 4 years. The exception is this little corner, which is an introduction, and I've got some older work here, some figure drawings from graduate school, a photograph of one of my graduate thesis paintings, and one of my first, very earliest ink wash drawings done with a stick and ink. And right now we're kind of sorting out things on the table to see what things might go up on this wall. And I've got drawings from South Korea. I've got some older work that I did as illustrations for the National Park Service, Voyageurs National Park in northern Minnesota. couple of watercolor studies. I think this one is from Seaport Harbor Museum in Connecticut. So there's going to be a variety of things that go up here. And I think one of the things that you can draw from this is that my drawing style is designed to transition into my painting. And the ink wash drawings really do that for me. So we'll move on to the next wall where I've got some ink wash drawings and talk about those. So this wall really was one of the anchor walls for the downstairs gallery. I could visualize what was going to be on this wall very early on in the process. There's one exception to the idea that these are all newer paintings, and that's this drawing here. This drawing was one of the Fulbright South Korea drawings where I was using ink wash. And I wanted people to be able to come into the gallery and see that along with the newer work that's along the wall. So take a look at the paper and the way that the brushwork works and see if you see a link between those. I put these two paintings in the show, even though they're just a little bit older than some of the others, because a lot of people wonder why I don't do, or I'm not showing highly representational paintings. I do a lot of portraits, and actually these two pieces are abstract portraits of specific individuals. And in some cases, I'll do a very classical kind of portrait or 17th century style kind of portrait on a sort of Rembrandt or Rubens kind of portrait. But this is something that I used to do with my classes when I was teaching. I asked the students to do a self-portrait that had no objects in it. And to choose colors, textures, shapes, composition that would reflect who they were. And it was amazing how well they did. Other students were able to identify the student who did the painting, not by the style, but by the expression of the piece. So these obviously are two different people that are being represented in these paintings, and I hope people will really think about the possibilities there. I'm not going to talk a lot about individual paintings here, but one of the things that people do ask me at times is about the framing, and I still build my own stretchers for the canvases and do most of my own framing, especially for the canvas pieces. So you see a variety of things here. One painting on this wall that I really want to talk about is this large painting. Down in this end, you see there's a 5-panel painting, and it's called All That Jazz. And it was actually the sketches and kind of idea for this painting started to develop during one of the jazz sessions at Stone Valley Arts here. We have the piano right here and the little group set up over to my left. And so I started working with that and thinking about, the rhythm, the bass playing through it and layering. I was particularly interested in the layering of the music as they improvise their way through. And it fits so much with what I wanted to do in painting. So, pretty big piece. Another anchor piece. This is the only wall in the gallery it would fit on, so I had to put it there. So on this wall of the gallery, some quite recent paintings. I mean, these are all late 2023 or 2024, as we look down towards the end, over here, that triptych down at the end, is the most recent painting that I've done. And so we've got a span in this show from 1965 to 2024. So some of the ideas I'm working with include, well, if you look over here, so we've got a triptych that's a multi-panel painting. And then I've got this interactive piece here. It's designed in such a way that viewers of the gallery, visitors to the gallery, can start to puzzle out what the painting is. Because it's one painting, but it really builds on the idea that each one of these little panels here could be seen as a painting all by itself, but they all connect some way. And I'm really interested philosophically how that works. That, when you think about how we see, how we look at things, our eyes don't see everything at once. Our eyes scan and see little pieces of things and assemble that image before us. So you get to play with this a little bit here. I first started doing multi-panel paintings in graduate school. I think part of it had to do with the size of my 1973 Pinto station wagon, but the other part of it was that I saw a photograph, a black and white photograph of a Robert Onrait painting that was 16 canvases. Each one looked abstract, but when you put them together, it was the interior of a room. And I really liked that idea, that the paintings work by themselves as a painting, but assembled together, they could become something else. So explore that a little bit here.